a heartwarming story about a pig becoming friends with a spider. How cute! Now, if only I could get over my fear of big bugs, then I could become friends with a spider in a few seconds flat. Caution! The following video is an in-depth review of the movie I'm currently reviewing, which means that there will be massive spoilers in the review. If you haven't seen this movie yet, then please feel free to watch this movie first before watching this video. However, if you have already seen this movie, or you just want to know my thoughts on this movie, then keep watching. This video was requested to me by Newwaytoofeelthepain, and if you want me to review a movie for the Reviews 2.0 series, then please feel free to suggest a movie in the comments down below. I was surprised that Hanna-Barbera, the animation company that was well known for creating beloved characters like Yogi Bear, the Flintstones, the Jetsons, and Scooby-Doo, would actually work on animating a feature-length film that didn't feature any of their famous characters. One of the most iconic feature-length films during the 1970s was Charlotte's Web, which was an animated film that was based off of E.B. White's popular children's book. Charlotte's Web was one of those movies that I used to watch a lot when I was a child, and I always have fond memories of watching this movie. I also had noticed that this movie had a lot more depth to the story than I had originally thought. But before I go into that, I would like to give out a brief summary of this film. The film begins with a young girl named Fern who discovers that her father John was planning on slaughtering a small piglet because he was the run of the litter. Fern then begs her father to spare the run's life, as she decided to take care of the little piglet and named it Wilbur. It was then that Fern developed a bond with Wilbur, and the two of them became very good friends. One tragic day, however, Fern's father John told Fern that Wilbur had to be sold to her uncle Homer Zuckerman, since Wilbur was growing up and Fern is forced to say goodbye to Wilbur. Once Wilbur arrives at Zuckerman's farm, he discovers that he could talk, and even though he was excited at this, he still missed Fern. Wilbur tried to make friends with the other animals on the farm, but either they were too busy or they didn't want anything to do with him. Then an elder ram tells Wilbur that he would soon be turned to smoked bacon and ham, and this terrifies Wilbur so much that he began to cry. It was then that a mysterious voice tells Wilbur to chin up, and that she would tell Wilbur who she really is in the morning. When Wilbur wakes up in the morning, he discovers that the mysterious voice belonged to a spider named Charlotte. Charlotte then tells Wilbur that not only would she become his friend, but that she would find a way to save his life. Charlotte's Web was one of those movies that had impacted me a bit as a child. It not only taught me about the importance of true friendship, but it also taught me about the harsh realities of life. The movie never sugarcoated the hard truths about real life, especially regarding the farm animals. When Wilbur first came to Homer Zuckerman's farm, the other animals just straight up told him that he will be eaten someday. They didn't bother sugarcoating the matter, they just told him the hardcore truth with straight faces. It seems that one of the themes of this movie is the importance of honesty, and how it could personally affect you. Sometimes the truth can hurt, especially if it's something you don't want to hear. But life is full of harsh realities that we must face. During the scenes where the farm animals just straight up told Wilbur that he will be eaten, I will admit that I thought that they were being a bit too harsh with Wilbur, and I thought that they could have sugarcoated their statements a bit so they wouldn't traumatize Wilbur too much. Though the idea of being eaten is going to traumatize you anyway. But on the other hand, that was the harsh truth that Wilbur had to learn, and it was then that Wilbur actively worked to avoid that fate. So in other words, once you hear the harsh truth, you may be upset or fearful for a while, but you also learn a bit about life itself, and you learn to deal with the situation the best way that you can. The film also shows the different sides of the truth. There's a truth that is often delivered in the blunt and brutal way, and a truth that's often delivered in a more sensitive way. There were various characters in the film that told Wilbur the truth about the world in different ways. You have the Ram and Templeton the Rat, who will often tell Wilbur the truth in the brutal, hurtful way, while Charlotte the Spider tells Wilbur the truth in a gentler way. This shows that while the Ram and Templeton the Rat were telling Wilbur the truth about the world, they don't seem to consider Wilbur's feelings. Charlotte the Spider, on the other hand, also tells Wilbur exactly what is on her mind, but she cares about Wilbur's feelings and will try to be gentle with him while delivering the truth. Another theme that the film approaches is the power of friendship. When the film started, Wilbur was good friends with a young girl, Fern, who had taken care of Wilbur throughout his life. But when Wilbur was forced to move away from Fern, he ended up in an unfamiliar place and had a hard time making friends with the other barn animals. But luckily, Wilbur becomes good friends with Charlotte the Spider, and Charlotte goes out of her way to save Wilbur from being eaten. This shows a close bond between Wilbur and Charlotte, and I enjoy seeing the scenes with the two of them together. Charlotte and Wilbur's friendship with each other is probably the most heartwarming thing that I have ever seen in this movie, as they truly do care about each other. I love the fact that Charlotte never lied to Wilbur and tried to tell him the truth about the world in a gentle way. It shows that both Wilbur and Charlotte value their friendship with each other. When Charlotte dies towards the end of the film, Wilbur completely breaks down crying, and I felt doing the same thing. Charlotte and Wilbur's friendship was genuine, and seeing Charlotte die towards the end of the film really broke my heart, because this would mean that Wilbur's left alone in the world, and what's worse, he had lost a truly good friend. So now that I talked about the themes of this movie, I would like to talk about the characters in this film. The first character that I wanted to talk about is, of course, the main character, Wilbur the pig. Wilbur was such an endearing character, as he always remained positive and friendly throughout the film. Even if there were moments where Wilbur was either depressed or sad about the horrific situation that he's thrown into, although to be fair, he had a good reason for feeling depressed at times. I like the fact that even if some of the farm animals had treated Wilbur badly at first, mostly the ram and Templeton, Wilbur still treated everyone in a friendly manner. I especially love his friendship with Charlotte, as their friendship was the most genuine thing in the film. I love the fact that Wilbur wanted to be with Charlotte, and when she died in the film, I actually felt his heartbreak at losing his closest friend. So when it was revealed that Charlotte had kids, I was actually happy that Wilbur was able to spend time with Charlotte's remaining children after Charlotte's death. I also love Wilbur's relationship with Fern at the beginning of the film, since Fern had taken care of Wilbur throughout most of his life. Even though Fern started visiting Wilbur less and less as the film goes on due to her getting older, I still love the scenes where she took care of Wilbur and treated him like he was her own child. Henry Gibson did a fantastic job at voicing Wilbur, as he made Wilbur sound so gentle and innocent, and I think that it fits so well with Wilbur's friendly and innocent personality. Charlotte was another character that I really love, since she is such a passionate, headstrong spider. I like the fact that Charlotte was always telling everyone the truth, even if the truth is a bit harsh. However, Charlotte is always telling Wilbur the truth in a gentle way, and I appreciate the fact that we have a character who's actually being considerate when telling their friends the harsh truth. I also love the fact that Charlotte was willing to do everything she can to save Wilbur's life because she genuinely values Wilbur's friendship. And it was very heartwarming that prior to that, Charlotte was the only one at the barn who was willing to extend a hand in friendship to Wilbur when he first got to Zuckerman's farm. I also found the scene where Charlotte dies towards the end of the film to be absolutely heartbreaking. Throughout the movie, we focus on both Wilbur and Charlotte's efforts to prevent Wilbur from dying in the film, but it was a tragic, ironic twist that Charlotte herself ended up biting the dust at the end of the film. Not only was this the most tragic scene in the entire movie, but it also showed the audience that death can come in unexpectedly. Sometimes we are unprepared for such an event, and we will have a hard time accepting the harsh reality that our loved ones had just died. The late Debbie Reynolds did a fantastic job at voicing Charlotte, as Charlotte always had a motherly sounding voice that makes her a very compassionate character. Another character that I wanted to talk about is Fern Shelf. She may not have contributed too much to the plot after Wilbur moves away to Zuckerman's farm, but I love the fact that she was Wilbur's first friend before Wilbur met Charlotte. I especially love the scene where Fern tried to save Wilbur's life at the beginning of the film when her father was about to kill Wilbur because he was the run of the litter. It shows how much Fern cared about Wilbur and was willing to take care of him. So when Wilbur was forced to move away, I actually felt bad for Fern, as she truly did love Wilbur, and I actually wanted her and Wilbur to be together forever. And even though the scenes where Fern spent less time with Wilbur as she got older were sad, I kinda understood her situation. You know how you have some friends from either elementary school or high school, and then you're separated from them after you reach college? And you hadn't talked to them for many years because you got a new life now? That's the situation with Fern, as the moment that she started dating her childhood friend Henry, she then started living a new life that doesn't involve Wilbur. However, there is one thing about Fern that I don't get. So, can Fern actually talk to animals, or is she imagining the whole thing? There was one scene in the movie where Fern is visiting the animals on the farm, and it seems like she understands exactly what they are saying, which is further proven in the scene where Fern tells her parents about what is going on at Zuckerman's farm, even though her parents thought that she was acting a bit crazy. The film was very vague about whether or not Fern can actually talk to animals, and I wanted to know if this was possible or not. And then the last character that I wanted to talk about is none other than Templeton the rat himself. I will admit that I find it kind of strange that I actually like Templeton, despite the fact that he's a jerk throughout the film. But I did find his sneaky and sarcastic attitude to be pretty entertaining. Paul Lynde's voice for Templeton was probably what made Templeton into such a memorable character for me. Templeton always sounded so sarcastic and sneaky whenever he's talking, and Paul Lynde did a fantastic job at bringing that aspect out of Templeton. The music in this film was amazing. The Sherman Brothers did a fantastic job at writing the songs for this movie. I was actually bouncing my head several times throughout the movie due to how catchy the songs were. Probably my most favorite songs in this movie were I Can Talk, We Got Lots in Common, and especially Zuckerman's Famous Pig. Now I wanted to talk about how faithful this movie was to the original book. I will admit that I actually watched this movie first before I read the book, and the book was something that I was forced to read in school. Don't worry, I actually enjoyed the book. I will say that this movie was one of the most faithful adaptations that I have ever seen on the big screen. Almost all of the dialogue in this movie was taken straight from the book, and I appreciated the fact that this movie stayed true to the original book. I also wanted to talk a bit about how the original author of the book, E.B. White, felt about this movie. It was stated that E.B. White hated this film due to the songs constantly interrupting the story, and I have to say that I respectfully disagree with him. I never thought that the songs were actually interrupting the flow of the story, and I thought that they added more energy to the film. Now that I talked about what I liked about this film, I would like to talk about some of the issues that I had with this film. For one thing, I didn't really care much for the animation in this film. The animation felt really stilted at times, and I kind of wish that the animation was a bit more fluid, even though there were some scenes that the animation was fluid. I can't help but feel like the animation of Heidi's Song, which was another Hanna-Barbera produced film that came out much later, was much better animated than this film. Another problem that I had with this film was that I felt that the pacing was a bit slow at times, as some scenes seemed to drag on for a long time, and I wish that there was a bit more action in the film. There was a live-action version of this movie that was released in 2006, and as of this video, I haven't seen that movie yet. Hopefully I'll be able to check out that movie down the line soon. Charlotte's Web is rated G. There's nothing really inappropriate in this movie unless the scenes where Wilbur is being threatened with death or the scene where Charlotte dies might upset smaller kids, but for the most part, this film can be enjoyed by the whole family. Overall, I give Charlotte's Web a score of an 8 out of 10. Even though the animation was a bit subpar and the pacing was a bit slow at times, this was quite an enjoyable film. I just love the way that the film tackled the themes of death and honesty in such a mature and straightforward way. The songs and the characters were the most memorable parts of the movie, and I believe that this film will be greatly enjoyed by the whole family. Hope you enjoyed my review of Charlotte's Web.
Psst. Hey you. Have you been enjoying the Reviews 2.0 videos? Want to get an added bonus for viewing these videos? Like getting early access to these videos before they are released on YouTube? Or being able to request what movies and TV shows I should review next? Then please feel free to support these videos through my Patreon account. Check out all of the tier titles on my account and choose which tier title you want to be known as. You could become a new member on the block, an early bird, be a part of the future Bunch team, a backstage passenger, an animation superstar, and last but not least, the honorary supreme. So show off your tier title name to the world once you support the Reviews 2.0 videos through Patreon.